Hi, Irene.
Good morning, Nicole, and good morning, everyone, and welcome along to our information webinar on the 2024 SEAI National Energy Research Development and Demonstration Funding Call. So today we'll give an introduction to the RD&D programme at SEAI. We'll talk about who can avail of the programme, what projects are eligible, project roles, the application process, evaluation process, financial details, top tips, and we'll finish with a Q&A session. So general WebEx housekeeping, the event is being recorded. Attendees are muted with their cameras off. Questions can be submitted by clicking the Q&A bubble. Questions will be answered at the end of the webinar. A recording and slides will be distributed after the event, and an FAQ document will be created from all the questions submitted, and this will be shared after the event. So SEAI work with government, homeowners, business and communities to create a cleaner energy future for Ireland. We have a range of research and innovation supports within SEAI. So we have our National Energy RD&D funding programme. We have strategic research partnerships with other funders. We run national and international research coordination events. We have an annual Energy Research and Policy Conference. We have International Energy Agency TCPs, which we coordinate for Irish partners, and we're also the national contact point for Horizon Europe. And so we have 4 overarching goals. The first one is to accelerate development and deployment of competitive energy products, processes and systems. We look at finding solutions to market uptake. We want to grow Ireland's capacity to access, develop and apply international class energy RD&D, and also provide energy policy and guidance support. So we've provided examples of some of the policy documents that we feed into with the call. So the call opened on Friday the 19th of April and it will close on Thursday the 13th of June at 12 noon. Eligibility and evaluation checks will take place during June to August 2024, and award notification will take place in Q4 2024. And all details are available on our call webpage. So just to give you a bit of information about the history of the funding programme, the revamped call was launched in 2018, and since then we've supported 250 innovative projects. We've invested over 75 million in research funding during the 2018 to 2023 calls. We've supported high-value research jobs, careers and opportunities, and we've also helped to inform energy policy. SEAI and the RTD programme is funded by the Government of Ireland through the Department of Environment, Climate and Communications. And we have co-funding partners on certain topics this year, and they include the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine, the National Parks and Wildlife Service, Geological Survey Ireland and the Marine Institute. We also have a National Energy Research Database, which is a central location for national energy research funded in Ireland, and it provides information on current and past energy research projects funded by SEAI and other funders in Ireland. And we hope that this will encourage collaboration and communication amongst researchers, and we have the link at the bottom of this slide. And now I'll pass on to our second speaker of today, Joanne Fitzgerald. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. I'm really happy now to talk to you about the details of the 2024 call. I will talk to you about who can avail of the funding programme, what funding is available, who's in a project team, how your application will be evaluated, and what financial information is needed. So The RD&D programme funding call is open to public and private sector organisations based in Ireland, including companies, third level institutes, public sector and semi-state bodies, and consortia and collaborations are really strongly encouraged. If you'd like to see examples of previously successful applicants, you can check out the National Energy Research Database, which Irene just mentioned. Applicant organisations must be based in the Republic of Ireland, and it is really important that you pay close attention to the eligibility criteria, funding rates and documents required for organisations that are detailed in the budget policy that's available to download from our website. So I'll just talk to you a bit now about the different types of projects and the funding available for these projects. So we provide funding under several categories. Small-scale projects are of up to 12 months in duration with up to €250,000 available. Medium scale are between 12 and 36 months with up to 750,000. Large scale can run up to 48 months with up to 1.25 million available, and academic fellowships run between 12 and 36 months with up to €300,000 available. So you will notice there are increased funding levels available for the first three project categories. The classification is based on the duration of the proposed project, and maximum funding rates must be inclusive of overheads, which are 25% of eligible staff costs. If you're applying to the topic strand, in the table at the top of the topic description in the annex of the call document, you will see the project category and maximum funding available for that topic. Just to talk briefly about the academic fellowships, this is a really great opportunity for postdoctoral researchers to lead a project submitted to the Open Strand. It's a career accelerator. It allows you to develop your own research area. These are generally between 1 and 3 years, and fellowship applications must be submitted by the individual intending to take up the proposed fellowship. As part of the application, a mentor or supervisor should be named and listed as a partner applicant in the application. Fellowship applications will be accepted from third level educational bodies only, and these academic fellowships will not be based in SEAI, so they're different from the SEAI fellowship call, which runs at a different time of year. So it's important to include a letter of motivation with your application for the academic fellowships. I'll just talk to you now a little bit about applying to the topic strand versus the open strand. So under the topic strand, applicants are invited to submit proposals that address specific topics that have been identified as priority areas for where research is needed. Under the open strand, applicants propose projects within SEAI remit, which directly addresses the aims and objectives of the SEAI funding programme. Funding is not ring-fenced, so applications to both the topic and open strand compete with each other equally for funding. And we cannot give feedback before the deadline as to whether you should apply to which topic or to the topic or the open strand. So if you are applying to the open strand, it is crucial that your application makes reference and aligns with the programme's overarching goals, which Irene described earlier, and also relates to government policy priorities, such as the policy documents that are pictured on this slide, but that's not an exhaustive list. Under the topic strand this year, we have 4 co-funding partners, and out of the 20 topics listed, 6 are co-funded. So please refer to the topic descriptions in Annex 1 of the call document for further details. So just to talk to you briefly about the thematic topic areas that have been identified for this year, and they generally fall under the broad headings that you can see in the purple boxes here. Under the heat heading, we have solutions for decarbonising industrial heat and unlocking the potential of efficient and renewable district heating and cooling systems. Under the buildings heading, the topic is energy consumption and thermal comfort in traditional buildings. Under smart grids, we're interested in proposals that demonstrate demand flexibility and optimize grid connection and charging infrastructure. In the communities area, we're looking at the societal impacts of sustainable energy communities. Under the other uncategorized heading, we are interested in topics that look at geological or subsurface storage for energy decarbonisation and sustainable supply and demand for critical raw materials in the renewable energy sector. Under transport, we're looking at electrical vehicles charging technologies and electrifying farm machinery and transport. In the offshore area, we're interested in proposals looking at migration of components from fixed to offshore wind, underwater noise monitoring, and how offshore wind energy potentially affects bat migration. Under the bioenergy heading, we're looking at attitudes on the use of bioenergy and related installations and the economic viability and market development of anaerobic digestion-derived products. And finally, under behaviour, we're looking at changing energy and transport-related behaviours in Ireland and also the public engagement with new energy technologies, services and infrastructure. You will notice in the annex that each topic lists some objectives and outputs that the proposal could address, but please note that your proposal is not necessarily expected to address every objective or output outlined in that description. And just to highlight here, our co-funders, Geological Survey Ireland, are interested in co-funding the projects about geological subsurface storage for energy decarbonisation and critical raw materials. DAFM are interested in co-funding the 2 bioenergy projects, our topics, and NPWS are interested in the bat migration and offshore wind energy topic, and the Marine Institute are co-funders to the underwater noise monitoring topic. So we'll talk briefly now about the project team and the definition of the project roles. So firstly, the lead applicant is responsible for managing the project. They hold the budget. They're responsible for the technical direction, progress monitoring, reporting and dissemination, and they are the primary contact point for SEAI. The partner applicants are listed named in the grant agreement. They support the lead applicant and are funded. And finally, collaborators can provide valuable intellectual, technical, financial contributions to the project, but would not be funded by SEAI. So we really do encourage collaboration across disciplines, stakeholders, organisations, communities and end users. And just to describe, a research end user is defined as an individual, community or organisation that will directly use or directly benefit from the output, outcome or results of the proposed research. And we ask for information about the end users targeted and descriptions of engagement with research end users at 2 points in the application form that you can see here. We also look for diverse participation in SEAI funded projects, and in section 3.7 we want you to describe how gender balance would be fostered within the project team. We ask you to list concrete actions demonstrating how gender balance will be fostered, and we ask you to describe any potential gender dimension of your research activity. We also have a new section this year that looks at sustainability of your research activities. As you know, research activities can be resource intensive, and SEAI funded researchers are asked to describe their research design that would minimise waste and environmental footprint without adversely impacting the validity and reliability of their research. And here you could refer to the headings that are listed in the bullets there, including travel, fieldwork considerations, materials life cycle costing, etc. I'm not going to read them all out. So I'm going to hand you over now to my colleague Louise, who will talk to you now in more detail about how to submit your application.
Thank you, Joanne. I'm now going to take you through submitting your application and the evaluation process. So all the call documents are available to download from the SEAI RD&D webpage, as seen on the left here. The templates you will need to fill in are the application form and the budget template. The key supporting documents are the call document and the budget policy. So please familiarise yourself with these documents as they provide guidance for completing the application form and the budget template. When submitting your application, you will need to include the completed templates mentioned, plus any supporting documents, and these can include letters of support or any financial supporting documents or declarations. Please remember to complete all sections of the application form and don't leave any sections blank. There are a number of checklists to help you ensure your application is fully complete before the submission. Incomplete applications will not progress to technical evaluation. So section 6 of the application form includes a checklist to ensure you've provided and attached all the required letters of support. Annex 2 provides a breakdown of the financial documentation required, and Annex 3 provides an overall checklist shown here on the right. So please consult this prior to submission. So as mentioned, section 6 of the application form includes a checklist to ensure you've provided all your letters of support. So all applications are required to submit a letter of support from the lead applicant. This is the person submitting the application and leading the project. The letter of support should confirm the application is correct to the best of their knowledge, that they are not in receipt of grant aid from other sources, and that they have a contract covering the duration of the project. The lead applicant organisation, so this is from an authorised staff member in the lead institution or organisation, and this could be for a company, it could be a CEO or director, or for a research institute, vice president for research or equivalent. So this letter should confirm endorsement of the project and commitment to hosting and facilitating the project. Partner applicant organisation, so if you have any partners in your project consortium, a letter of support is required from the partner organisation. Again, this is an authorised staff member in the partner institution or organisation, so a company CEO or director or vice president for research. And the letter should confirm their role in the project and the level of support being provided. Collaborators, all collaborators listed in the application are required to submit a letter of support confirming their role in the project and details of the support they are providing. So this could be access to data, technology, or any other in-kind support. If you are submitting a fellowship application, the letter of support required are from the lead applicant, which in this case would be the fellow. Again, the lead applicant organisation. So similar to the previous slide, this would be an authorised staff member within the third level education body, so vice president for research or equivalent. The partner applicant in a fellowship application would be the academic mentor or supervisor. So this must be a core funded member of academic staff or have a fixed term contract covering the duration of the fellowship. In addition, fellowship applications need to include a letter of motivation, so demonstrating their interest and suitability for the proposed fellowship and how it will enhance career development. And again, further guidance on letters of support is available in Annex 2 of the call documentation. We would advise applicants to allow sufficient time for obtaining letters of support and signatures, because these can often delay completing your application. So if you can engage with those early to get those in order. Applicants are also asked to disclose the use of any generative AI or AI assisted tools used in their application, and there is a tick box for applicants to confirm that AI has been appropriately disclosed and referenced. So that's on the page there below letters of support. So once you have completed your application, you will need to submit to SEAI. So applications should be submitted through the SEAI project evaluation platform, also known as PEP, and only fully complete applications received prior to the deadline will be considered for evaluation. A reminder that the deadline for submission is 12 noon on Thursday, the 13th of June. Submissions can be prepared offline, however, all documentation must be submitted to PEP prior to the deadline. Again, as mentioned previously, there's checklists available in Annex 3 of the application form to ensure you've collated all the necessary documentation. And just a word of warning that once you click submit within the PEP portal, you will not be able to edit your application submission. So please ensure that you have everything in order before you hit submit. We would advise applicants to become familiar with the PEP portal in advance of the deadline. New users will need to create a registration, and there is also some element of application data input needed in addition to uploading your application documents. So please don't leave it to the last minute. There is a PEP guidance document available on the webpage and linked here in the presentation, so that will take you through the process step by step. However, if you have any queries, just contact us at energyresearch@seai.ie. So now I'm going to take you through the evaluation process. As mentioned, all proposals submitted to both the open and the topic strand compete with each other for funding. So as such, they undergo the same evaluation process. There are two stages to the evaluation process. Stage 1 is eligibility assessment, and here proposals are assessed to ensure they are compliant with the programme requirements and programme objectives that were described earlier. So again, please remember that incomplete applications will not proceed to stage 2. So stage 2 is a full technical evaluation, and applications passing the eligibility assessment will be technically evaluated under the evaluation criteria outlined below. So that's under excellence and innovation, relevance and impact to quality, and quality and efficiency of implementation, including value for money. So further details on technical evaluation criteria are outlined in the call document, but I'm going to take you through these briefly now. So the first evaluation criteria is excellence and innovation, and this is worth 35% of the marks. And here evaluators will assess the level of ambition and innovation, as well as quality, validity and reliability of the research proposed. This criteria also considers the project team, their familiarity with the research area, their track record in RD&D activities, and their potential to partake in future RD&D activities. This criteria should be addressed by the applicant within section 2 of the application form, as shown on the right-hand side of the screen here. And again, further guidance on how to complete this section is available in Annex 2 of the call document. So criteria 2 looks at relevance and impact. And here evaluators will assess the relevance of the proposal to the Irish energy sector and how it builds a national capacity. Your expected outputs and impacts are also assessed under this criteria with reference to added value for transdisciplinary collaboration, active engagement and involvement with key stakeholders and end users. The strength of your communication and dissemination of these outputs will also be considered, including the relevance to enterprise, policymakers, the scientific community, society and the end user. So under relevance to the Irish energy sector, the applicant is encouraged to identify how your proposal addresses and supports national and international policy ambitions. So referencing key policy documents, example is shown here on the screen. Under criteria 2, relevance and impact, this is addressed in section 3 of the application form, as highlighted on the right here. So the final evaluation criteria is quality and efficiency of implementation, and this is evaluated under section 4 and 5 of the application form, as well as the Excel budget template. So section 4 looks at the work plan. It'll be evaluated on its clarity, coherence and credibility. So is the project logical and clear? Is it realistic in what it wants to achieve and how it wants to achieve it? And are the timelines realistic? Is there a strong project management structure in place and have risks been identified? Section 5 of the application form looks at the budget, and here evaluators will assess the appropriate need of the budget. So budget and financial considerations will be discussed in more detail later in the webinar, but in short, is the requested budget suitable and is it appropriate for the size of the project? Have the requested costs been sufficiently justified? Are they necessary for the successful completion of the project? Applicants are also advised to take care in completing the budget section and provide a strong narrative for the costs requested. Just to note that for applications to be considered eligible for funding, proposals must achieve a minimum average score of 60% in each of the valuation criteria. I'll now pass over to my colleague Victoria, who will go through some of the financial elements in more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Hi, my name is Victoria Werner. I work within the research finance team, and I will be one of 5 people who will be looking at your application from a financial governance and risk perspective. So the very first thing I'm going to say is this is a high-level overview, and I'm going to talk about finances over the next few slides. We do have a very detailed budget policy that you should refer to whilst filling in your application. So the first thing I want to sort of highlight, and this is very specific to companies, specifically smaller companies, SEAI research programme currently fund on a reimbursement retrospective basis. So companies really need to make sure they've got access to funds that will support project delivery between claim periods, obviously if your project's successful. The 3 things that we mainly look for within your application are the costs realistic and achievable? Do they have value for money? And are they project related? So consider those when you're putting your application together. A complete application, what is a complete application? So your application form needs to be completed along with the budget template, the Excel document. And this might sound like a bit of silly advice, but make sure those 2 documents match. So section 5 within your application form specifically talks about your budget. Make sure the rationale there matches the costs that you're requesting in the budget template, the Excel document. Make sure you submit all your supporting documents. So that's all your different types of declarations. If you want to be VAT inclusive costs, you will need to get a letter from revenue to specifically say that your project is not VAT recoverable. That needs to come from revenue, and a top tip is ask for that letter now rather than waiting until your application is due to be submitted. They can take a little while to get sent out to you. Companies and public, semi-state and third level education bodies have a different composition of documents that you need to send in. However, there is 2 checklists that you can check, one in the application form and one within the budget template, which will tell you exactly what you need to submit for the type of organisation that you are. Financial documents, audited accounts ideally, but if you're an SME and you come under the company's exemption for audited accounts, that's fine. Letter of support, data management plan. Make sure your application is complete. This is an extremely competitive process. We don't have enough money to fund everybody, so make sure you start planning your project and your project team now. So SEAI are bound by EU state aid regulations, and it's specifically under GBA, which is the General Block Exemption Regulation. So the maximum amount of funding really depends on your research category, the size of your organisation, and if you want to apply for any sort of intensifiers under collaboration or dissemination. There is a caveat to that where there's a non-economic public goods stream, and they are really only for third level educational bodies, semi-state or public sector organisations, and they're eligible for 100% funding. I'm going to come on in a minute now to tell you how you can apply different percentages of funding to get your maximum rate. This is probably the easiest slide to look at for putting together what you can actually apply for. Whenever you decide on your research category, make sure you put a strong rationale within your application form. Now, built into the budget template, the Excel document on the first page, which is the organisation tab, we have a little formula in there that you can pick all these different types of things and it'll tell you your maximum funding rate. In short, the maximum rate that companies can receive is 80%, but it highly depends on your research category, if you're a small or medium organisation, and if you want to go for collaboration or dissemination. And you can see in this sort of depicts the different types of rates that you can apply for. The only exception to this rule is the non-economic public good category. Now, there's 2 declarations within the application form for this. There's one for third level educational bodies, and there's one for other organisations, specifically public or semi-state organisations. And how we define that is we go to a list, the auditor and controller, the auditor general, the CNAG have a list of all of those public and semi-state bodies. And we use that list as our first point of call, but that doesn't cover, that's not a one list for everybody. It doesn't cover all situations. So the second declaration for non-economic public good has 4 criteria set out within it that you have to meet if you want to apply for the 100% funding. There's a lot of information about this in the budget policy, so please refer to that when you're deciding what research category you want to apply for. So onto the main slide, I suppose, is what can you get money for? So the first thing is staff costs. Staff costs must be project related. Core funded staff aren't eligible to apply for funding, and that doesn't include companies, because companies are self-financing for profit, so that's slightly different. But if you're coming from a public, semi-state or a third level educational body and your funding is secure, so you get public funds or you've got funding through another funding agency for your staff costs, then those staff costs aren't eligible. In some circumstances, public, semi-state organisations may have sort of 30% of their role funded on a core basis. That means you could possibly apply for the other 70%, as long as it's project related and it's not a source that's coming from anywhere else to fund your post. Postgraduate fees will fund up to $6,000 per year for that. Actually, just a note on the staff cost, you can also include PhD stipends under your staff costs, and we have a maximum contribution of $25,000 per year for that. So put those costs in with your staff costs. Our overheads is a pure split of 25% of eligible staff costs, so that's automatically calculated for you. Equipment, equipment is the only equipment you need to put on your application is anything that is going to be depreciated, anything that's going to go on your asset register, anything that has a life outside of your grant. So if the piece of equipment is going to last 10 years and you're only going to use it for 3 years for our project, that needs to be listed under an equipment item. There's 2 ways that you can depreciate your equipment. IT equipment is a base 36 months and any other equipment is based on 60 months. There's a lot of detail again about this and how you calculate your depreciation in the budget policy. So please, I'm going to keep saying this the whole way through, please do refer to the budget policy. Materials. Materials is a bit of a catch-all sort of budget heading. So anything that is consumed, anything that is going to be obsolete at the end of the project, actual consumables, test samples, test tubes, whatever it is that you may need to deliver your project, put under materials. You can also put under materials dissemination costs, pure dissemination costs, so open access journals or anything that you need to pay for to actually widely disseminate your project, put that under your materials budget heading. Travel has sort of 3 very distinct elements. So you've got project related travel, so this might be travel to test sites or workshops or project steering meetings or community meetings, but anything like that is strictly project related. That just goes into travel and is uncapped. You have dissemination travel. So this is travel connected to maybe a conference or an event that you're actually going to widely disseminate. So you're going to speak at a conference or you're going to share your results. That's also uncapped. We do have a capped amount of €1,500 per year per team member, and this is for conference travel where you've identified a conference that you might like to go and attend. You're not necessarily disseminating it, you're just going as an attendee in the conference. That's capped. So that's €1,500 per year per team member. External consultancy fees, we generally sort of have a cap on this. It shouldn't be any more than 20% of your total project costs. However, we understand there is some sort of external fees that can be extremely high, and we'll look at those on a case-by-case basis. But a general rule of thumb is it shouldn't be over 20% of the total project costs. And the maximum daily rate for that now is €800 plus VAT. There's a couple of new things that have happened for this year. So a lot of people on the call have maybe attended these launches a number of times, but there is things that have changed from last year and the previous years to now. One of those is how we calculate the staff daily rates. Now, this doesn't really come into play as much until you're looking into the grant management side of things. So when your application is awarded, but you need to think about the rates now for the amount of money you're going to request. So we've actually brought this in line with the EU, and you can use the 1720 hours or the 215 days a year. The daily rate cap now will be the salary cap. So when it comes into grant management, we'll never pay more than you've paid your staff costs. So that's a very new thing for us this year. So please take note of that. The student stipend has increased to 25,000. So we'll make a contribution at the maximum amount of 25,000 per year per student. The change in the equipment versus materials. So we will consider anything under 10,000 as materials. unless you specify otherwise. So if it's companies have sometimes very strict rules about what will go on their asset register or what their accountants want to be considered as equipment, we will blanket everything under 10,000 as materials, which also helps with drawdown of your grant, particularly for companies. External consultancy costs have increased to 800 plus VAT, and we've got a few new costs that we are happy to support. One is companion travel. So this is if you have, say, a physical difficulty or disability and you need somebody to help you to travel to a conference or a meeting, you can ask for some support towards that. We already provide up to €300 for international visas, but now we will also contribute up to €600 a year for those students because they have mandatory health insurance requirements. So that's a new aspect of what we will fund as well. Also assistive technology. So if you need dictation software, something like that to help you support your engagement in the project, you can actually ask for those types of things as well. So we've already gone over the different levels, the different funding levels that have increased. So small, medium and large scale have all increased as from last year. So that's a good news story, I think. And one thing has just popped into my head that I actually would like to go over, and it's the dissemination. So when you're putting your application together and you're deciding on what research funding category you want to choose, and if you're a small or medium organisation and you're considering the collaboration or the dissemination intensifier, this is more for companies to bear in mind. The dissemination intensifier is held at the end of the project. So if your project is funded, you're likely going to get paid out up to 70%, and then that other 10% will be retained until the end of the project, until you've evidenced all of your dissemination. I just wanted to mention that because I think it's quite important for cash flow for small companies. And on that note, I'm going to pass over to Irene, who's going to go through sort of top tips of your application.
Okay, thanks Vicky, and thanks for all the speakers so far. So just to, before the Q&A, I'll just go through some top tips. So there's just under 7 weeks until the submission deadline. So if you haven't looked at the call documentation yet, if you review the call documentation, the RD&D budget policy and the application guidelines within Annex 2 of the application guidelines, with an Annex 2 of the call doc, you'll find a guide to the application form. So build your team and gather all the supporting documentation and identify who your key partners and collaborators are. Remember that only full complete applications received in advance of the deadline will progress to evaluation. There are application checklists for different types of proposals, so they're available again in the call document. So if you check through those before uploading your information, become familiar with the PEP application portal. If you log in and create a registration for yourself early, and if you have any difficulties with the PEP application portal, if you log in and then can't re-log in, please email us at energyresearch@seai.ie and we're there to help. Don't leave any sections blank. Remember, it is a competitive call and we cannot provide feedback on draft proposals, but we can provide any technical feedback that you have. And we will, the event is recorded, we will share the slides and we will share an FAQ document and all other information after the event on our website. Great. So like I said, all the questions that we didn't, I think we answered most of the questions, but we'll produce an FAQ document and all of the answers will be in there, and that will be available online at our webpage, detailed here. And if there's any technical questions that you need to be answered, if you email us at energyresearch@seai.ie, we can provide assistance. Again, just to remind you, the closing date is Thursday, the 13th of June at 12 noon, and then award notification and project start will be from Q4 2024 onwards. And that just leaves me to say thank you to all the presenters this morning, and thank you to everyone who attended and put forward questions. And we will let you know when the new documents are on the website. So thank you very much.